Not every book is remembered. Some you finish, close, and move on from almost immediately. You might remember the plot, a few details, but nothing really stays. And then there are other books. You finish them, and they still don't feel finished. Something continues. You think about a line days later, a character returns to you in a quiet moment, a certain mood from the book settles somewhere in your thinking, and it stays there. It's not loud, but it's persistent. Most people assume this has to do with how good the book is, but that's not always true. Sometimes, but not always. There are beautifully written books that don't stay, and there are simpler ones that do. So, what makes the difference? I think it has less to do with the book itself and more to do with the moment you meet it. There's a concept from Roland Barthes where he distinguishes between texts that are simply consumed and texts that engage the reader in a more active way. Not just reading but participating. And the books that stay with you are usually the ones where something in you was already open, something unresolved, something unnamed, something you hadn't fully looked at yet. And the book didn't create that, it meant it. That's why two people can read the same book and have completely different experiences. For one person, it passes through, for another, it remains. Because something in them was ready to recognize it. This is why I believe that no books are badly written. It's just a perception that makes them good, bad, or otherwise. There's a line from Marcel Proust that captures our experience beautifully. Every reader, as he reads, is the reader of his own self. You're not just reading the book, you're reading yourself through the book. And when something in the text aligns with something in you, it creates a kind of imprint. Not always something you understand immediately, but something you return to. That's why certain passages stay. Not because they were universally profound, but because they were personally exact. As a reader, I've noticed this in my own experience too. There are books I've read at the wrong time. They didn't stay. And then I've returned to them years later and suddenly they feel completely different. Not because the book changed, but because I did. That's the part that makes reading such a deeply personal practice. Books don't exist in isolation, they exist in relation to where you are when you meet them. And when something stays, it's worth paying attention to that, not just the book, but your response to it. This is where writing becomes important again, because most people notice that something stayed, but they don't stay with it. They move on too quickly. But if you take a page after reading something that lingered, you can begin to explore that connection. Not analytically, just honestly. Why did this stay with me? What part of me recognized something here? What's so important here? You don't need a perfect answer always. Only sit with yourself with the question, and that changes something. Because now you're not just consuming literature, you're relating to it. And that relationship is what deepens your reading over time. You begin to notice patterns, the kinds of book you return to, the themes that stay, the emotional tones that feel familiar. And slowly your reading becomes more intentional. Not in a structured way, but in an aware way. If you think about it, the books that stay with you are not random. They are part of a pattern you're still understanding. So don't ask yourself, why was this book so powerful? Ask instead, what part of me did this book stay with? that I haven't fully looked at yet. You don't have to find perfect answers, you just have to notice patterns. Because sometimes the books that stay with you are not just stories you read, they're reflections you haven't fully understood yet. And reading and writing alongside is just one step further to understanding yourself.